So in terms of colleges and universities, there's immediately, in my mind, like a laboratory of developing and co-designing solutions.
Yes, absolutely. And when you consider tribal nations have sovereign authorities and sovereign standing, I use an example of back in 2008 when I attended COP14 in Poznan, Poland. At the time, we had a vision of bringing together tribes from a 5-state region to engage in carbon sequestration. The domestic market was trading at $2 to $3 a metric ton through a voluntary system at the Chicago Climate Exchange. There was a system in California, one in New England. The international market was trading at $32 a metric ton, but domestic companies couldn't engage in that market because the U.S. was not a signatory to Kyoto. Notwithstanding that fact, a tribal nation could engage in international markets. And so the thing that tribes can do is not only help influence a just transition, but we can help accelerate it by engaging in markets domestically and internationally to bring about resources to help with that transition.
About Grace Harbor Community College, is there anything that you would have in mind to share, like specifically, because that would be one area that we deliver the curriculum that we're working on?
Yes, I think there's a valuable partnership with Grace Harbor College in that they now have a Bachelor's of Arts degree in forestry, and I think given that we are so close to Grace Harbor College and we have so many of our own citizens that could really benefit from a bachelor's degree in forestry, we have an opportunity to create unique training for our citizens to not only manage forests in the way that we've grown accustomed to, and I call it the industrial model, where we plant trees, we thin, we harvest. Well, if we extend the rotation and engage in a carbon-based management of forestry, there's a lot of opportunity there. And so I see a tremendous role in a partnership with Grace Harbor College in that one area, but there's many others.
So the safety of the village and the sacredness of the location's at risk. What happens in your heart and soul when you have to move your village and it's like moving a mountain?
You're absolutely right. The scale of the project that's in front of us to relocate 2 of our villages to higher ground is almost unthinkable at times because I think of not only the scale of the project and the fact that we have little to no resources to do that, but the comprehensive plans that we've undertaken to look at the risk. It's absolutely devastating when you think about not only the impacts of climate change, we're also next to the Cascadia subduction zone. And so some of our emergency management plans have revealed that in the case of a tsunami, the system that we have here that's intended to keep our community safe could create trajectories, boulders as part of our seawall could actually turn into trajectories. We're vulnerable to liquefaction. The entire village could sink into the sand. So we have multiple impacts of this landscape and the geography of the coastline. Well, when you take that in and of itself, it's pretty hard to wrap your mind around, but when you think of things that are totally outside of your control, all these other macro environmental impacts related to the climate crisis, that's when you begin to really wonder, how are we possibly going to do this? And then when you reflect on what it was like historically, the fact that my ancestors have walked these lands and this coastline for millennia, and the place where our ancestors signed our treaty right now is underwater. I have an uncle who can attest to being here on the coastline and seeing the length of a football field-sized beach. That football field is now gone, and the ocean is directly encroaching upon our landscape.
So in terms of traditional ecological knowledge, I know people use that a lot, but the scientific value of that, how is TEK within the community to help educate, prepare your technical people in fisheries and biologists?
Yes, traditional ecological knowledge certainly has its role and its place. It's foundational to who we are. We've noticed things. I'm a gatherer. I gather berries. I've done that from the time I was a little girl with my grandmother, and just seeing the impact of the climate crisis on the season, the time, the place, it's very evident and it's very real to our community. And so the value of that traditional ecological knowledge is we're able to share with our scientists. And I'm finding in the work that I've done over the years, scientists are coming to the conclusion that traditional ecological knowledge is not only good science and proven science, it's best practice, and it's proven through the centuries. And so that's the value and the role of traditional ecological knowledge. And we're finding that I know scientists around the world are recognizing the value of indigenous knowledge, and world leaders are now paying attention that we have to bring traditional ecological knowledge to the table. This last year, I was invited to the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, and I had a pre-meeting with the founder, Klaus Schwab, and I heard him, in a direct question, he was asked, why now? Why are indigenous peoples here? And he said, after 50 years of working with the world's leaders, with business leaders, with diplomats, we have to have a holistic view of the world. And he said, from his perspective, the only people remaining on the planet with a truly holistic view are indigenous peoples. And that's why we were there, and that's why we're invited to the table. We are going to continue to fight that good fight. We're going to continue to lead, not only here in the United States, but in the world. And that's our mission, that's our calling, and our future is simply non-negotiable, and we're not going to give up.